Revelation 2921. From the 12th of October 1943. Transformation of the outer form. New course of development. A complete transformation of the existing outer form has become necessary because the spiritual can no longer come to maturity in it, partly through the free will of the form, which is in the last stage of development, partly through the premature destruction of other outer forms, which is also the fault of human free will. There is no more maturing in the order intended by God. Innumerable entities are unlawfully in the unbound state, that is, they have escaped from the form and are not yet banished in a new form, because a certain building up activity of men is necessary for this. And this unbound spiritual again affects the spiritual in development in such a way that it contradicts divine order, thus it is also detrimental to all higher development. All this is favored by the human being's will which, however, cannot be compulsorily directed, and that is why this free will has to be bound again insofar as that the spiritual has to go through the solid form again, that it has to take the path through creation again in order to change its will through endless times such that it now uses it correctly in the stage as a human being, because only then can it redeem itself from all form. And since at present only a few people use their will in the right way, that is in a way that is pleasing to God, but the majority of humanity completely fails and disregards its earthly task, a transformation of the God-opposing spiritual can only be achieved by the fact that creation, that is, everything which contains God-opposing spiritual substances within itself, also undergoes a transformation, that the spiritual substances bound in form enter a higher stage, while the spiritual substances of free will, the human being, has to take the most solid form as a cover again, for his guilt is the greatest because he was already in a stage of realization which allowed him to become completely free from the form if he used his will correctly, and he misused his will as well as his abilities in the last stage of development. Such a transformation must follow a chaos from which there is no other way out than complete destruction of what exists, which, however, does not mean total annihilation. Only the spiritual is placed in another place, it must revive the form which corresponds to its distance from God. Freedom of will cannot be left to the spiritual, which has forfeited it and uses it to work against God. Likewise, the spiritual substance which has become unlawfully free must be bound in a new form, because without such a form no further development is possible and the spiritual substance only increases chaos through its development of strength against divine order. And never again will humanity, which has become so weak-willed, find the right path of its own accord, never again will it change to love, which is the only antidote to reduce the chaos, to continue the course of higher development in God's intended order and to also help the spiritual, which is still bound in form, to become free once. And therefore a transformation of the material creation is inevitable, otherwise there would be no redemption and the spiritual would have fallen prey to God's adversary for all eternity. Amen.